Okay.
I was thinking when I was waiting on my phone and it just kept on spinning and spinning, and it's like, oh, the host will, be there or what have you. I was like, are ENTPs always late?
No, I wouldn't like
That's
that.
what I thought. And then
Yeah.
I'm like the one that's late.
I'm uh I'm generally quite reliable when it comes to these things.
Mm,
And any kind of work with clients, I'm going to be very, very reliable.
yeah.
Uh okay. So I typically start and will this time by asking how many of my typing sessions have you seen before?
That's an interesting one because seen as a would be a generous term. So I'm skimmed, I guess. I was looking for a specific thing, and so I just read the transcript to find what I wanted.
Okay.
And then that's how I watched them. But so typically I would just get to the end. I would just watch the end because I was more
Okay.
interested in that.
Sure. All right. And how long have you known about personality type and cognitive functions?
Probably a couple years. Can't like I was introduced to it when I was in college, but
Okay.
I don't think
Let's
that counts.
let's start there. What did you study in college?
So I started as a physics major, or a double major. So I did physics and applied mathematics, and then I switched over to just applied mathematics because physics started to get ridiculous. So,
And what exactly are you applying the mathematics to?
well, today I work as an analyst, so I apply it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's really just the general, um, neural pathways that you form when you go through the arduous process of learning mathematics. It's training the mind to understand things in a certain way rather than actually memorizing things and then using those exact formulas, etc. Because most of the time you're not going to use like multivariable calculus in your role, but you are going to see things in like a rational way, and there's like and then you have to prove things out. So things like taking proof classes and etc. in general just trains your mind to understand things and look at things a certain way and solve problems a certain way.
Okay, cool. Um, and when you say physics started getting ridiculous, what do you
Yeah.
mean?
Um, I felt like I couldn't apply it. I felt like I saw my future ahead of me being spending all of my years thinking about things that I would never see with my own eyes. So it became frustrating for me because um, felt like I wasn't actually doing anything. Yeah, it's
So is
yeah.
the non-applied mathematics would then be proving Miama's conjecture or something like that?
Say that again.
Like non-applied mathematics would be somebody who spends their time proving Miama's conjecture.
Yeah, meows. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
There's some
yeah.
numbers
Pretty
and
much.
conjecture. Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
It was kind of a rude awakening too, because I, was pretty set on that, like that career path. But yeah, uh,
so is it that
oof.
you did you not like the quantum end of physics? Like, was it because it was too you were either dealing in astrophysics or quantum physics and no actual physics that applied to the regular world?
Yeah, like I really enjoyed mechanical physics, right? And some thermodynamics were that was fun too. But it was actually when we started to get into um, Actually, well, I'm going to take back what I said a little bit, because maybe actually didn't have to do with that. Maybe it had more to do with like to me it came across as I was pigeonholing myself, because mathematics is in everything. Physics almost was like a subset to me, where it was like I was limiting myself in this very narrow subject. Whereas if I did mathematics, then I could go wherever I wanted, because
Okay.
math is in everything. Physics is also in a lot of things too, but to me it seems like math was more was a lot broader. You know, I it didn't stunt where I could take myself. You know,
Great.
yeah.
And
I forgot your actual question. Sorry, I don't think I even answered it.
that's fine.
Okay.
I'll follow up with things as need be.
Okay.
Um,
Cool.
okay, so let's talk about the last time you went on a vacation out of town. Can you articulate where you went, when that was, how long you were gone for?
Like accurately, like the very last one, or could I
I mean,
just pick any of them?
approximately, like basically,
Because I
what
remember
one?
A, but I don't know if it was the last one.
Okay, well, which one do you remember?
Well, okay. Yeah. So we went to Alaska and we saw the aurora borealis, and that was pretty. It was like both not what I expected and kind of boring, and then but then at the same time also fascinating.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, lights in the sky, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Because
how exciting
everybody
is it really?
exactly, like it's like you're standing there and you're just like, okay. But then at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but this is also fascinating. But the naked eye can't actually pick up the color and the richness of the aurora borealis that your camera can. And so it was like this surreal experience where my expectation of like, because everybody thinks aurora borealis is these pretty green lights and stuff. What you actually see is an extremely faint green light, and the you don't actually see the like it is not what it looks like. Like all these pictures and stuff, cameras can pick it up better than our naked eye can. And so the in-person experience is a little shittier than the camera experience.
The further north you go, the more vibrant it is.
I mean, yeah, but we weren't gonna freeze our asses off to get there.
Apparently, in Mount Denali too, like the Denali National Park, is really cool.
That's my husband, by the way.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I mean, he does this
Fine.
every
I don't want
time.
you trashing on the Aurora Borealis that much. It is pretty neat.
Well, I said it was neat. Also, boring. It
Like,
can be
It's
both.
kind of like the Grand Canyon. You get there and you're like,
We haven't even been to the Grand Canyon.
yeah, but I'm sure it's in the same ballpark, right?
Okay. Yeah. Well, you can't. Okay.
All right. Well, I would agree that all things that one looks at in nature have a low
I'll stop
ceiling
about
of
it.
interest.
Wait.
Gotta
Start.
put my 2 cents in this.
I just said I would agree that all things that one looks at in nature have a low ceiling of interest.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot more interesting.
Okay, so
Our
do you
minds
do
sometimes.
anything else in Alaska besides look at things in nature?
Oh. Yeah. We went to uh the dog sledding thing. Yeah.
They did, Rod?
No. Like it was. That was one of the races they did do. Or they, as in like the um people who ran this kennel. So they have a kennel of all of these race dogs, and so we all got to go in sleds and control the sled partially. And
Did you get to race other couples?
No, no, actually, no. It was quite sad because that was another thing too. Is so I had this picture in my mind, of how it was going to go. There were some things I'm like, okay, yeah, that's neat. And then other things I'm like, well, this is pretty lame. Because I mean, like overall the experience was fun, like who gets to do that, right? But when we were on the sled, you're following behind someone else. It's like if you go do horse trails or what have you, you're just like in this like train of people, and it's like such an manufactured experience. So yeah, it's not free form.
If you wanted to more generously name it, you might call it a curated experience.
Curated experience. Wow, what a connoisseur.
Well, all right. And what do you expect? A theme park out Alaska for the tourists?
Yeah, I guess so.
Do you have a favorite moment from that trip? Do you recall as a specific moment?
We saw this baby moose, and I thought it was like an adult moose, but it was huge, and it was it was like this. We were like in a car, and somebody started talking about it, and I really liked the story. Yeah, so that was one of my. I'm sure I can come up with other things, but that one kind of stuck out to me, mostly because it was so huge.
Okay.
It was enormous. It's like one of the largest land mammals in North America, and it was a baby. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking at a baby. How big are the actual, adults? And I was just in awe with how massive this thing was. But then the story essentially went like, oh yeah, it's gonna die because it doesn't have its mom with it. And I was like, how can a massive creature like that not survive? Like like that. It just seems like such a silly thing that something that looks like it could probably survive, just loses its parent and all of a sudden it can't survive. So I thought that was interesting because like humans, right, like there's stories about like what feral children, right, who and there's only like about 100 cases or so of this, like documented cases. I'm sure there's more, but when these feral children actually survived, but then a big honking moose baby can't survive, and it's like, okay, that's interesting.
Feral babies don't survive. Like
Okay, well,
human
feral
babies.
babies don't survive, but the thing could walk around and probably eat and use its nose and stuff, like.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, okay, cool. So, can you talk to me about your sleeping habits? Do you go to bed at the same time every night? Do you wake up at the same time? Do you have trouble going to sleep? Is it easy to go to sleep?
Yeah, I've never had a consistent schedule ever. Never. I'd probably max out like with consistency, maybe a week before it changes again.
Okay.
Or maybe even worse than that. But it really just depends on what I'm doing. I'm a very busy person. So, yeah. Wait, what was the other question?
Well, I mean, is it easy for you to go to sleep or hard to go to sleep?
Oh, it's, I think it's average,
Okay.
like
Do you like to go to sleep with some background noise or talking in the background, or you like it quiet?
it depends, I guess. Like sometimes I like white noise, but then sometimes I don't. You know, it
Do you
just
ever
kind of
listen to
depends.
talking? Do you ever listen to talking videos in the background?
I haven't, because like in order to do that, like I'd have to, have like headphones on, because
Rachel does every night. And
really? Oh,
yeah, until she goes upstairs to sleep, and then she takes her headphones off and just listens to it from the speakers of her phone. But she has something
yeah.
playing on in the background all the time.
I like um listening to brainwave music.
Okay, what's that?
So there's different kind of brainwave soundtracks you can listen to, and they all have different, like there's like alpha, beta, those and they're different. So some you'll use for studying, for concentration tasks, um, and others you'll use for getting ready for sleep. And also, actually, now that I think about it, I think you could probably map this brainwave thing, to like video game music, or because in the old timey video game music, you wonder like it's very like it's ongoing, right? It's something that
Uh-huh.
is consistent, seems to have like a very consistent pattern, sort of thing. And it's basically the same thing. Like brainwave music is like the same thing. It's got a certain pattern to it. So yeah, I think like in general, anything with a pattern to it, at least for me, would be the best. Whether it's like a short pattern or a long pattern.
Okay. Um,
If that makes
all
any
right.
sense.
How many total hours of sleep do you think you need a night on
Uh,
average or minimum?
I mean, it depends on what I'm going to do the next day. Like, ready or not, the next day isn't going to like wait for you, right? So if I get like parents, for example, they don't really get a whole lot of sleep. So, and they're fine. It seems like at work, like the people who have families, etc. So, doesn't seem like it's too significant. I mean, well, it's important. I would say it's important, but um, yeah, I guess like well, okay, because like there are some times where I will get no sleep and I'm fine the next day,
Mhm.
and then other times I'll get plenty of sleep and I feel really shitty. So like it doesn't seem like it's directly tied to exactly how much you sleep. I
Okay.
mean, okay, well, it is okay, but like my personal like is I can make do.
Okay. What about your eating habits? Do you eat the same thing every breakfast? Like you have one go-to meal? Do you switch it up? Do you skip breakfast? What's the deal?
I definitely have coffee, um,
Okay.
but I don't necessarily have a consistent meal. I would say it again. It also depends on what I'm doing. So if I have an early meeting that day, then I will typically eat like something fast. So like if there's like a bar, like one of those Cliff Bar thingies, I'll have one of those. Like a grab and go thing. Um, I'll switch it out sometimes. Like it just depends on what we get, I guess. But then if I can sit down for a longer meal, I'll have a cereal, I guess. So, but it just depends on the day. And then sometimes if I just don't have any time, or I don't make time rather, then I just don't have breakfast.
Okay. What's your relationship with procrastination?
That's a really interesting one because I noticed that I get uh, at least, yeah, I guess I would have to consider it procrastination. Um, hmm. Yeah, I guess like if we say that procrastination is you should there's an expectation that you're supposed to do something a certain time and you delay it, uh you consciously delay it, then yeah. Okay, so yeah, I guess I won't do it things immediately. It kind of depends. So I would say with like work projects that I'm doing right now, there's a couple of them where like I'll say at work that I'm gonna have it done a certain time, but I haven't even started on it yet. But
Does that drive you to work on it right away to get it done?
No, mostly because it's just silly stuff. Like typically I just already know what I need to do for the thing. And so I don't really so then I know I'm gonna get it done.
I
That
see.
makes sense.
So
you,
because
you
you
know?
know what you need to do to get it done, you know you will get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes,
Okay.
it throws things for a loop, right? Where it's like, oh shoot, there's this one thing that I didn't foresee, and then I might get stressed. But for the most part, it's worked out for me.
Okay. Can you break down the task of giving yourself a haircut into exactly 5 steps?
In exactly 5 steps?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So gather the materials. 5 steps is a lot. Can I just do it in like 2 or 3? But we might be extending it a little bit more than it should be. I think we could actually get this done in 3 steps. So I would say, if I were to do it in 3 steps, I would say you gather the materials, which would include scissors, mirror, yourself. And then you start cutting the hair. And then you clean up afterwards. Done.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, 5 is
So,
way too many.
okay.
Like, what are you even gonna do with 5? Like, would you say something in 5?
I mean, I'd say, uh, get a trash can, get the clippers,
That's part of the ingredient step. You
put
can
on,
merge the
put
2.
on the, put on the bib,
No,
put on the
no. You're
number.
breaking up these things.
I'm trying. I mean, I'm purposely trying to get to 5 steps.
Oh my god.
Because that, after all, was the task assigned.
Yeah, well, that task is insane. So,
Okay.
because you don't need 5 steps. That's inane.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's just as informative as if you had broken it into 5 steps for me, and just as informative as if you had been unable to do so and not understood the idea of it would have been informative too. So
Well, okay.
it doesn't really matter how you answer it.
Okay, yeah, but like 3 steps, right? Literally, if you can get it done in 3 steps, the task, doing anything more than that, you're just finding like nebulous steps to like
Well,
fill.
I mean, gather materials. At the end of that step, you'd have a pile of material, right? You would not be actually ready to cut your hair.
Yeah, you would.
Okay.
Yeah, you would.
Okay. Fine. Fair enough. So now I'm gonna ask you some questions. I'm gonna ask you some questions that are gonna be probably a lot more second nature for you than for most people, because you obviously trained in these kind of questions, and I mean, you've done math stuff, so this kind of stuff is going to be not very informative for me, but I will ask you a few of them anyway.
Okay.
So if some frogs jump and no things that jump can fly, is it the case that some frogs cannot fly?
Okay, so some frogs can jump, so not all frogs can jump. And then
Some frogs can jump. No things that jump can fly.
Okay, so jumping and flying can't be. And then what was the last part?
Is it the case that some frogs necessarily cannot fly?
Correct. Because some frogs can jump. So some frogs.
Fine.
I
So how
might
about
actually
that?
have done that opposite.
That's fine. You got it. If only, if only potatoes have eyes, and some things that have eyes can see, is it necessarily the case that some potatoes can see?
Oh, necessarily the case that some potatoes can see?
Yeah.
Say no.
I'm gonna say yes.
You said only potatoes have eyes.
I said only potatoes can see, right? No, I said only potatoes have eyes. Some things that have eyes can see,
Yeah,
right?
so some things, so some potatoes
Can see. So
can see. Oh
isn't that
yes, and then only potatoes have eyes. Yeah. And then what was the last part? Some potatoes.
okay? The last part was: is it necessarily therefore the case that some potatoes can see? Because well, it's
Oh
not.
yeah. Because only potatoes have eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Um. So, to what extent are the problems you're dealing with in your work ordinal or not? So, in other words, are you coming up with solutions that require you to go in a certain order of steps, or are you coming up with
Some
solutions that can be approached from in any order?
um most times, okay, so when it has to do with a tool, they typically have certain steps you have to follow. Um, for example, if the tool is a hammer and you're trying to hammer a nail, then there's certain steps to hammer a nail. But as far as the problems that we're solving at work, it's very open-ended typically. So there's not there can be many ways to approach it. And in the same way that coding, you can have many different ways to get to the same result.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. And how do you know if you've done a good job?
Feedback, because the work that I do has to do with serving users' data, and they're typically business users, and I'm a data architect. And so when they, let's say, finance is looking for a specific way to report on something, we don't have that, then at the end of the day, if that's not delivered, the user doesn't have what they need or it's wrong, etc., then you didn't do a good job. So yeah, I think like in the end, it's just results based, right? Like, did you do it or did you not?
Okay. Do you have a plan, like a long-term goal, like in 5 years, we will have, you know, one income property generating this much revenue per month? Do you have like that kind of plan?
Yeah. So in about a year, we'll have our house paid off, and then within the next 5 years, I think I need to position myself to have the kind of job that I want to prepare for the next step. But essentially, we've got some things that we want to do, and that includes traveling the world. All of these things that we kind of imagined when we first met. Um, my husband and I, we've been together for uh, 24 or 14 years. Um, and so, and we met each other in school. So we had all of these like dreams, right? So I'm just flying my way through those, you know. So as far as like the actual like plan, I'm still fiddling around with, because I'm in the turning point right now, right? I'm 31, and that's when I have to kind of make the decision of like, well, do I want kids in the future, etc. And I'm leaning to yes, but I'm leaning to actually freezing my eggs so that I can have them when okay, I haven't checked this just yet, like the logistics behind it, but I would like to have kids at age 45 because that seems like everybody seems to have this thing where they okay, you have to have kids when you're younger. Well, why do you have to have kids when you're younger? I saw somebody who had adopted a child at age 60. So why don't we flip it, because people when they're older, yeah, there's reasons like being able to keep up with a kid or whatever, but there's also positive reasons that other people don't really talk about too, with like it's like period of time where you might be sadder or etc. Like I don't want to waste my time, my years of youth raising
You'll be a
someone
better
else.
parent. You'll be a better parent at 45.
Huh?
You'll be a better parent at 45.
Okay, well that's a risk I'm willing to take then. They'll have to figure things out, but
And then you'll be a better parent at 45.
oh, sorry.
Because at 45, you're less interested in your own youthful stuff, right?
Yes, exactly. Like I can't have. I guess our lives are so short, Like when you choose to have, I don't understand this, why other people do this, but when you choose to have a child, that is a 20-year commitment as far as like intensity of what you're going to be doing. It dictates your life for 20 years, or more, God forbid they stay with you for longer. But that is insane to me that people are just like, oh yeah, I guess I'll just, have a kid at age 20 and use the 20 years after that. And, I'm just going to become, or at age 40, like I can now do things. No,
Right.
no, we don't have to do that. We
No,
don't have to do that.
you don't have to do that. Okay.
No, but people don't question it. Yeah.
So, what do you feel you have more clarity about? What's important to you, or how things will play socially?
Socially? How things will
Yeah.
play socially? Ooh, I'm really bad at this socially. I make more messes. I just recently, so I am the eldest of 5 siblings. And I grew up in an Asian family, so there's a lot of like context with being the eldest. But recently, my 2 younger brothers got into a tiff, and one of them placed a restraining order on the other. And so, like, I thought that was bonkers. I was like, "Are you guys are being so dramatic," So I wrote a text that basically pissed off the entire family in one fell swoop. And now I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna not say anything now. So I think that kind of stuff happens very often where it's like, to me, it's very obvious like what needs to be done, because he is a teacher, and teachers have like background checks, deeper background checks. So a restraining order is going to impact his income. And if the intent with a restraining order, for example, was to do a specific thing and you did not fully think out like the actual true impact of that thing, then I just think that's stupid. And you have to fix that. So that's what my text was about. But then everybody thought that I was siding with this other person, And I'm like, no. I am voting for the restraining order to stay in place. that didn't change. I'm not altering the original intent here. I'm mitigating the full impact that it seems like all of y'all aren't aware of. But it like they can't get past the fact that it came across as I contested it. Because yeah, so my plan in my mind was to address this thing, but I didn't really realize that they would react in that way, you know.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good example of. So do you feel, in contrast, that you have little difficulty understanding what's important to you?
Yeah, yeah. I actually just recently started diving into like trying to meditate. You know, I used to be so like when I was growing up, probably like I just remember writing a list of things that I wanted to do to accomplish down, and that was like my 30-year plan. Well, now I'm 30. Now I'm 30. Okay.
When did you make this 30-year plan? When you were 0?
When I was 8. Okay. All right. Well, 30 minus 8. Big whoop. So yeah, yeah. So I didn't really, you know, question, like I had set like everything checked out in my mind, you know, and I was like aligned to like what I needed to do, what I wanted to do was what I needed to do, you know, in order to have a certain like, you know, life, really, I guess.
So
Um,
are you ahead of schedule?
Not a schedule, but like, you know, like with the whole like 3-step thing, right? Like there are certain things that I need, like you walk it back, right? Like, okay, well, if you want to go to a good college, right? One of the lowest hanging fruits is to get good grades. Okay. You know, so essentially it's like, okay, and even that's even too small of an example. So if I want to be a millionaire, okay, you know, I have to be some amount of smart, you know, and so you walk it back like, okay, these are the kind of things that I'll need to obtain this thing, and then you get the thing.
I see.
So
So you start with the desired outcome,
yeah,
and then you reverse engineer an ordinated set of things you need to do to get there.
kind of, yeah, yeah. Like you there's like, you know, threads, right? Like there's common threads, and it's almost like you like pick like a water slide, right? Like there's certain things that are just going to come naturally and effortlessly if you go on this thing, you know. So you don't really have to know all of the steps as long as you know that the slide that you're on, the one that you're on leads to the end result. You just have to make sure you pick the right one in the beginning, you know, and then everything kind of domino effects in to what you want.
I see. Okay. That's very straightforward. Um, all right. So what do you think? I want you to imagine a hypothetical guy, Joe. And Joe is a meanie, and he's saying critical things about you. And I want you to tell me critical thing 1 or critical thing 2, which bothers you more. Okay.
Okay.
So, critical thing 1, you're not saying anything original. I've heard all this before. Critical thing 2, you can't remember anything. You always forget everything I tell you.
The second one, I definitely get called out for that a lot. Um, I recently, but like, hear me out. I have recently been, you know, diagnosed with ADHD. And so I think one of the things that my mind will do is like, even like in the logic examples, like I will have an easier time writing things down, you know,
Okay, this
than
surprises
having to
me.
remember it.
Non-adult. It surprises me not at all, and it has nothing to do with ADHD. I can assure you.
Oh, okay.
Um. Okay. So, what about the following critiques? Uh, which would make you more defensive, like more like no. Okay.
Hmm.
Is it that you what you did a lot of stuff, a lot of effort and work, but it didn't accomplish any outcome, or that you you had a good plan, but you failed to
Oof.
anticipate the resistance of other people.
I would say the second one because like the first one, it's like no, I know my value. Like you can move along. But this, but the second one is like it's obvious. Like if the plan didn't go through, it's obvious to literally everyone. You know,
That's it. And
right? And that's
because
embarrassing.
you is because you needed to schmooze yeah, but failed to. Then with that instance, like has that happened? Like if you had just like schmoozed meow more, everything would have happened fine. But instead, you pissed them off, and now we've got problems.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like it's the most frustrating thing because it makes me feel powerless in those situations because I don't like I have an idea of just how things are going to play out, and it's really frustrating when people just don't you know um cooperate sometimes. Like
True.
it's just really frustrating, and it just seems like this I just um it continues to like show up in my life, so it's not very fun.
What would bother you more if Joe told you you were unfair or inefficient?
No, I'm unfair in some cases, so doesn't it's fine. Like everyone has like unfairness is subjective anyways. So I could care less like if someone feels like if I know that I did the right thing, then someone feeling butthurt about whatever is like their own thing. But as far like sorry, what was the other one? The second one? What was the other one?
Unfair or inefficient?
Yeah. I think I think um both kind of equally maybe because inefficient, right? Like that does bother me, but I can also get better at it in the same way that like unfair, we can fix that. It's not like a stain on my record.
Okay, well, what about if I were to change the terms from unfair to hypocritical or inefficient?
Ooh, hypocritical or inefficient. Um, yeah, hypocritical. It kind of falls into the category for me of this is something, uh, because I try not to do things hypocritically. I feel like a lot of people try to do things to avoid that, but in that situation, someone saying that would just be so annoying because when that does happen, like if I imagine if someone was saying that to me, just like the previous question, it's like, oh, well, here we go again. We have to figure out, like, we have to work with this person, and we need to unblock whatever it is, you know, to so that we can continue forward, that sort of thing. Whereas the inefficient, I see that like that's so much easier to deal with, like because sometimes we can be inefficient, right? And we find a different thing that can help us, or what have you. That can be fixed. But the other one, I don't have full confidence in my ability to uh, ameliorate those kind of or those situations because that situation would mean that it involves a person.
So
And
fundamentally, you see efficiency as being an objective matter, and fairness, or fairness is a subjective matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I feel very confident about what type you are. Rachel, I don't know if you've been paying any attention.
I've been, but I'm not sure.
It seems very clear to me that you're an ENTJ with a tiny percent chance that in theory you could be an INTJ. It's hard to eliminate entirely INTJ because I don't have that great of a test for FE polar, but you certainly test positive for SI polar, SI blind, and you certainly hit all the standard things you'd expect to see from an ENTJ. Your FE is very 8th slot, your SE is very 3rd slot, your NI is very tool function, your TE Dom. So much so that you see TE as the objective approach to logic.
Oh, are you contesting that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, yeah, we can have a conversation about that.
That's not my purpose here, is to contest.
Oh, okay, all right. But it is the objective approach, yes. Might not be like the universal truth like TI users, but like, I mean, come on, like getting things done.
Right, but things are only absolutely true when they're conditionally true.
What reality do you live in?
One in which defined symbols give you an opportunity to have binary statuses that are disallowed by a more fluid reality that efficacy deals with.
Okay. All right.
Because, well, mathematics being maybe in everything, philosophy is in actually everything.
I mean, I can't disagree with that.
Okay, but
I can't disagree with that. Oh.
I feel very confident you're an ENTJ. You're about as textbook as they come, and you got a 30-year plan when you were 8 years old.
Well, I feel like though I'm struggling to figure out my next plan though. Actually that's like something that I was like, well, what the hell is wrong with me? Why can't I come up with one? Because I still feel like there's like a lot that's like yeah, like I said, like, oh well, this is when I freeze this or whatever, but like that's like not necessarily like a plan.
Well, I mean, okay, but the point is, like, you're gonna have your house paid off pretty soon. You're 31, right? You purposely made the decision to put off childbearing until you've used your youth for some other purpose,
But that's like more like a value statement, right?
I mean, I think you overestimate the extent to which people plan things. Like, I didn't have any plan. Shit just happened. It's still that way. I don't have any plan. Plans are for planners. I just kind of roll through life and stuff happens. And many people are like me, not like you.
How does that work?
Well, you have short-term plans. Like Rachel and I are like, shit, we still haven't gone to the store all week. Now it's Friday. We need to pick up Rachel's medication. The pharmacy closes at 6. takes us half an hour to get to the store. We better leave right after this typing session, or else we're not going to get to
Just order
meditation.
it. Just order it.
Well, that's
Then you
a
can cut
great
out
idea.
that
That's a
one step.
great idea a couple days ago. Okay, that's not such a great idea right now. Now,
Yeah,
that's one of the advantages that you might attain via planning. Okay, you'd have your medication, right? In contrast, we do not. You know? What we have
Okay.
instead
All
are
right.
surprises. We get surprises. You
What kind of
get
surprises?
predictable results, and we get surprises.
Uh,
A wonderful world of surprises.
So, okay. Can you tell me more about like SI polar? Because I feel like I have, like,
Yeah.
you know, I can remember things that happened in the past, and you know, like sentimental memories and things like that. So
Yeah. Well, because it's your blind spot, it's very difficult for you to conceive of just how different one's relationship with one's experience, one's past, one's memories is for somebody who's SI front stack. But most importantly, what it means to say that you're SI polar is that in every instance, consciously, as you move through the world, you're, instead of using your experience as a reference point, you're going to use your intuition. Both your intuition and your experience are ways of knowing things. Instead of using your subjective experience, and so, well, this sort of thing's happened to me before, so I'm guessing it's going to be the same thing this time because it was similar to that last time. You're going to intuit about the thing itself from an objective knowing perspective.
but I feel like I like still, you know, at work, for example, like I'll like think back, recall time when, you know, that's kind of similar, right? Like that would be kind of the same thing. And then, you know, use that. So I'm not like devoid of it or anything like that.
Well, no, but when I asked you, like, what was the last vacation you went on, you were like, well, I'm not sure if it's the last vacation I went on. The thing is, people who don't have very weak SI will tell you things like, well, the last vacation we went on was to the casino down there to get the car fixed, I guess you would say. And the vacation before that was, and you just go back and list them all. If you had SI high up and stuff, but not being able to even remember what the last vacation was, not being needing me to repeat the specifics of a relatively small syllogistic question, for example, is very consistent with SI polar. And also, most importantly, you might periodically reference things from your past, but as a default mechanism of knowing, you're going to trust your intuition. What that means is, if you want to know whether you're in a happy relationship, for example, rather than looking to examples of you enjoying each other's company, you're going to look to signals that one is in a happy relationship.
I see. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, there was definitely like this like moment when I was with Tony, that I basically decided that like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna regret it if I don't stay with this guy. But and so I didn't. I did. I mean, I didn't. I did. You know, we're together to this day. So.
And of course, the difference between, say, you SI polar and Rachel, who's got a weak relationship with both her SI and her FI, is that you have the advantage of knowing clearly what you want and what's important to you. And that's why it's implicit to being good at setting and meeting goals is to know what you want the goal to be clearly and have it be a singular goal. It doesn't change, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, because, you know, there's a lot of different choices of stuff, but there's the one, you know, like that's gonna
Yeah.
check
I
all
mean,
the boxes, like
sure. And if your NI tool, another expression of that, which is also another way of saying SI polar, is that for every thing that comes at you in life, you first establish the clearly best singular best path and embrace that.
Yeah.
Rather than say an INTP who would for everything in life consider all possible paths and embrace none.
I mean, I still feel like I consider all the different paths, though. It's not like I'm like totally like, right?
I mean, you intuit from a field of data, right? You
Yeah.
intuit from possibilities that are evident and other things. What's the best path?
Yeah.
That's different than the alternative, which is if I were an INTP, I'm an ENTP, but if I were an INTP, you'd say, well, here's what we need to do. It's the single best way to do it. There are all these various factors as to why this thing holistically is the best choice. The INTP would say, well, here are all the various reasons why it might not be the best choice. And
I see.
I don't agree with your claim that it's definitely the best choice. You're just using your intuition. You can't even establish defensively that it is the best choice.
Well, just watch.
Right. So the point is that
You-
would be the alternative to the way you are. If you had NE, which is my dominant function, as a tool function, you
Right,
do
right.
that all the time, right?
Right. Yeah, I think that's like why in some cases I just feel like you're either with me or I'm just gonna keep on going. If you don't want if you don't want to share in what we're gonna obtain, you don't have to.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing is, ENTJs rarely fail to be instrumental in their relationships with others.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, like, well, like what you just said, right? I need to understand you as links to this thing that I've got going on. You're either helping, in which case you matter,
Pretty much, yeah.
or
Yeah.
you're not, in which case you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very TE down way of being.
I mean, well, I would say, I value people's, personal freedom to choose,
Sure. Yeah.
because
I'm not accusing you of being evil.
So, okay, all right. You said FE 8th slot. What the heck is that?
That's the thing that you go, "Ah, I think those people thought I was rude / didn't like me."
After the
When
fact, yeah.
Yeah, after the fact, yeah. When you walk away later and you go, wait a second. I think those people thought I was rude / didn't like me.
Okay.
That's the eight.
I thought the 8th slot is the 8th function, right?
But it
Is
doesn't
eighth function.
work like that. You got
No.
your dominant and your tool function. They define all the rest of your functions. Your dominant function is your nature, right? So your 8 slot function is the other kind of that function. It's what you call your most unconscious autopilot-y helpful function. So in other words, you'll have access to FE, social grace stuff, when it's necessary for you to solve problems.
Yeah.
And you won't pay any attention to it when it's not.
I mean, I would say I've come across as friendly, FE friendly.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you're not going to be paying attention to how you come across unless you think it's necessary for unless it's instrumental to something else. Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, because people should manage their own emotions, you know, like I can't constantly be thinking about their reaction, maybe, you know, like it seems like, and also like it's momentary, right? Like they might have a feeling, but like overall, it's like net positive. So why focus on anything in particular? Why are you smiling? What's that mean? What?
It sounds so TEFI, you know? You just sound super TE. That's all.
Okay.
Like FE people, they're always like, you know, like Rachel, for example, when we go to sleep at night and I'm going to sleep, she's like ultra still and stuff because she doesn't want to disturb me as I'm going to sleep because we're
Oh.
aware of how I'm gonna
Oh
be.
God, I am not that way.
No, you're the most unconscious with that. So.
Yeah, yeah. What if I wake up and I think that everyone should be wake up or up at that time, then there's no need to
Be
be
quiet.
quiet.
Right.
In
In
fact,
fact,
I'm
there
helping
might be a
people
need to
wake
go,
up.
"All right, get up, get up.
No, well, not like that. You know, that's too much energy. It's just like if you happen to wake up, then like good, like you should have been up.
Right. Yeah, it's
You know? Yeah. But okay. So what's the stack like? Because I want to look this up for myself later. You know.
E and I.
No, hold on. Sorry. Need a paper. Okay, I'm gonna write this down.
Sure. PE and I. SE.
Okay.
FI.
Aren't there 8?
Yeah, but okay, so the point is the other ones are the mirrors of the first 4, right? So it's TI
Oh.
and then NE, SI,
Oh, okay.
and FE.
Right. Okay. Are they like directly opposing them all the time?
Well, it's like 2, your tool function defines it refers to the kind of attention that you use as the default approach to every problem that life throws at you. Accordingly, the alternative way to do that, so like for you, the other way of knowing is called your place of least resistance or blind spot. That's your polar, right? But so basically the first slot function defines 1, 5, 4, and 8. And the second slot defines 2, 6, 3, and 7.
Interesting. Okay. Is this the BB's model?
Is that the baby's model?
The BB's model. BEBE.
Oh no, it's you might call it the principal typology. It is the normal 8-function model that maybe BB is responsible for. I'm not sure, but it's sort of implied by any expression of union cognitive functions that accepts that you have alternating what do they call that? Introvert extrovert thing.
Okay.
As long as they have alternating that. If you have any model that has alternating that, it implies the 8 functions. And the thing is, you can't define any function model with fewer than 8 functions, really, because your definition of any of the functions is going to be circular with the expression of other functions, right? Like, because you have more of this, you have less of this in the following ways. And so that's what really you're saying with my dominant function is extrovert intuition. What that's saying is I have the following limited relationship with introverted intuition. I have the following kind of even more limited relationship with
Mm,
extrovert sensing.
I see, I
Right.
see, I see. Okay. Got it. Okay. Okay. And then actually, so there was a server that said I was FE lead. So, like
It's
ENFJ,
nuck and futz is what that is. It's nuck and futz.
huh?
You're not an FE, Dom. No way in hell.
Gotcha.
Zero chance in a million years you're an FE, though.
Why?
Well,
Like, cause okay, so someone explained it to me as it's like the water that you swim in. You can't see it. You know, it kind of like
not true if you can't see it. No. It is true that it's who you are. It's your absolute value kind of gateway to entry. In other words, circumstances that disallow you from using are circumstances that you'll put a considerable amount of effort into avoiding. However, you're the absolute expert at using so you can find a way to use it in most circumstances. So for you, that's solving problems, coordinating solutions, you know,
right,
having
like
goals and understanding how to get from point A to point B.
right.
That's
It's
not
like
extroverted feeling. That's extroverted thinking.
right. Okay. Yeah. Someone was talking about how like the someone can be bad at FE and be an FE lead, like be bad at like
No, that's insane. People say all kinds of crazy nonsense because the vast majority of stuff you hear about cognitive function typology is people talking completely out of their ass.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because the thing that like tipped them off was just like digging into someone's, motivations and stuff like that. But because like I am interested in like, okay, what do you want? Like what are the things about, like I do take interest in people.
Well, sure, but you take specifically interest in their FI. What do they want? Because what do you have to offer to them? Solutions, outcomes, goal, ways to get to what they want, right?
Right.
Whereas people who are FE don't care what the other person wants. They care whether the other person likes them, is happy, believes they're getting their way, whether the other person thinks you're being a team player, right? That's what matters to FE people. So
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So you can still relate to people via FI.
yeah,
But it's like a different kind of relating.
right. You can't.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't care about people when you're using introverted feeling.
Yeah.
It's that you care about them more authentically. When you're using extroverted feeling, you care about everybody equally, kind of. Whereas
Right.
if you're using introverted feeling, you care about the people you care about a lot more than you care about people that you don't care about.
Okay. I can understand. I think that's like where I'll get into trouble sometimes, because if I feel like we're not getting to the heart of the matter, I just want to poke into the heart of the matter, and that might actually come across as very insensitive.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is sometimes being a team player is very inefficient because you got to let everybody speak their turn and speak what they have to say about it, even though maybe you clearly know that
we don't need to do that.
Joe's gonna say some more bullshit like he usually does, and Bob's gonna say something irrelevant like he usually does, and then we'll end up just doing what I say anyway. But we gotta pretend to listen to these idiots.
Oh my god. Okay. All right. Fine. I agree. All right. Okay. Yeah. I get that now. How about no, actually, I think I understand. Now. I always thought that I was like using NE because I was thinking of like different possibilities and
What is your demonstrative function? I can solve problems pretty well that require some amount of ordination if I put my mind to it. I used to be an administrator that had to do a lot of like program architecture, lesson plans, making sure that all the different teachers had the right lesson plans for what they were teaching in this whole larger program architecture. It's been a bunch of shit like that, I was a director of a school with like multiple locations, so I had to deal with complicated logistics in some sense. I mean, not super complicated, but
Okay.
I had to put together the whole architecture for dealing with those logistics too. So
Okay.
anyway, I can do it when I'm like called upon at work, and especially certain kinds of it, right?
Okay.
But I don't like it at all. But
Oh.
I nevertheless can be
Oh,
pretty
okay.
good at it.
So what's like a
So
sorry.
what you won't like, what you wouldn't like is, for example, my live streams where I'm just rambling on about whatever and then changing the subject and then trying this idea and then playing with this idea and then just kind of bouncing between random shit, right? Without any particular point or purpose.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's not the format I would like, no.
You no doubt think, why is this guy spending all this time just talking about nothing?
Okay, I did think that, yeah. Popped in one of your live streams. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
It's so that I can understand people like you as well as I do.
I hate that. Okay, all right. I think I could find like all of the different things that you're talking, or okay, the things. What am I saying? So you said tool function, democratic, blind spot, all that stuff. I just want to quickly write down like next to the functions, right? Like what each one is, the name of it.
Okay. There you go. I mean, slot 1 is called dominant.
Yeah.
Usually.
Okay.
Slot 2 is called tool.
Yeah.
Slot 3, I usually call it 3, but it's also called tertiary.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's 3.
Mm-hmm.
So no one cares about the tertiary. Got it.
Slot 4 is sometimes called seeking,
Okay.
but sometimes I usually just call it 4. You know, sometimes they call it self-deprecating too. It's the one where you're willing to admit, like, okay, yeah, I'm not that great at that, and it's fine because that's not that important.
Okay. Okay.
5,
and then okay.
5, I call it not I, but socionomics and I call it ignoring.
Oh, interesting. I ignore TI.
Yeah, what that means is, for example, you think fairness is just about people's feelings.
Well, I mean that's not ignoring, right? Like that's just kind of what I think about it.
Well,
You're like ignoring would like you wouldn't have an opinion on it if you're ignoring it, like it doesn't exist.
I mean, no, but your opinion on it is that therefore you can ignore it.
Oh,
It's just people's feelings, and therefore you can ignore it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, yeah. Okay, and then any is democratic.
6 is they call it in sociology they call it a demonstrative function.
Okay, demonstrative. Yeah.
I call it counter value.
Counter value.
Yeah. In other words, you actively don't like it.
Okay.
Like I don't like TE. I don't like solving. I don't like
You don't like TE?
No, I don't like efficiency. I like to play around.
It hurt me.
It doesn't mean I don't like you. It means I don't like that function because I see it as kind of tyrannical. Like,
it's tyrannical.
You worry about your own efficiency. I'm busy fucking around here. Sometimes in the gentle art of fucking around, magic happens.
In the gentle art. Oh man. Yeah, I have a lot of NE friends, you know, and I just listen to them, but I never really talk a whole lot. But
you're probably pretending to listen to them while solving other problems.
Okay. Well, if we're posting this publicly, I need to.
No,
I'm not
you're
really sure
definitely not doing
if
that.
Eric's right.
You are not doing that
I
for
don't think
sure.
Eric's right about that. I do care about all of you, and we could discuss this privately.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So SI blind spot, FE is or the eighth one.
Right. It's what do they call it? I think they call it role, maybe in
Roll.
socionics. Role function, I think they call it in socionics. I call it defensive.
Oh. Okay, I immediately get that one. Okay. All right. And then if you still have time here, what is like when I look at this model, 1, 2, 3 for procrastination, is 1 the most proficient, and then it's just descending from there,
No.
proficiency based?
No. First of all, the odd numbered ones are absolute values, and the even numbered ones are instrumental values.
Oh. Absolute values and then instrumental.
Yeah. So
Oh, okay.
you might not uphold, say, your fifth slot function, especially in any given instance, as an absolute value, but to the extent that you're going to value it at all, it's going to be as an outcome, not as an not as a way to get to something.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Check.
And
Oh,
then,
okay.
and so you've got a couple of different. You can't just say these are understood in terms of like strength or weakness by slot. It doesn't work like that because it's like being an action type myself means that sort of action infuses other things and kind of defines my relationship with other functions, makes certain functions more action oriented. Like I think of my introverted intuition as being action oriented. So for you, introverted thinking is going to be solution oriented.
Right. So your dominant determines the schedule, like the
Yeah,
agenda.
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And
okay.
then the tool function determines the kind of it determines how you relate to 3, 6, and 7. So like if you're NI2, it means you're SE3, which means your NI has as an overseer thing that you check on less frequently, the standard of SE, which is the absolute value. You don't check to it as frequently because you're constantly using NI. But when you do check to it, it reminds you, oh shit, I'm NIing too much. I need to actually do some shit now.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. That where it's like the common thing that I tell myself as I'm like planning things along is like, just touch the damn thing. Like go out there and just do the thing, and then you get more information. If I'm like stuck, I'm like, well, I don't really like see the clear like path forward. Sometimes it's just you just have to go out there and touch some grass,
Right.
Which is why I thought like maybe I'm an INTJ, because I'm like planning, and then I'm eventually feeling like, oh, I just need to go out there, and do, play with it.
Yeah, and the thing is, the N, because for you ultimately the NI is instrumental, which it would not be for an INTJ, right? It's instrumental to the actualization, the concretization of the thing, which is SE, right? SE is the other kind of action function for mine. I present a bunch of ideas. SE acts upon one of them. I come up with, oh, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this, we could do that. SE actually does that thing, right? So I said before to Rachel, I was like, well, we'll just end this typing session right at 5. We'll get to the supermarket, we'll get there in time. But that was just some things I said, apparently, because
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I might actually understand other people better by understanding that they like want to kind of be left alone and no TE tyranny. Actually, now I might actually understand a little bit of my family dynamic.
yeah.
Okay.
I find that if I say I'm going to do something, it makes it less likely that I'm going to do it.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible.
I don't think I feel like you're not minded by it though. Like it doesn't bother you though.
Oh no, look, I mean, I'm in this wonderful situation where life's very convenient for me. Everything's suitable for my general disdain for worldly matters.
Disdain for world matters. Yeah, I have a couple ENTP friends. They're very chill. I appreciate the candidness, so it's a lot more relaxing, I'd say. But yeah, okay, so and then ESTJ. People have said ESTJ because okay, right, because of the SI.
ESTJ has excellent SI. They would never say something as ridiculous as you said about sleep, which was that you were knowing about how much sleep you needed by looking to other people who were parents and must not have therefore gotten very much sleep, and they seemed to be fine. So how much sleep could one need to get? So a person with SI only understands how much sleep they need to get from their own experiential relationship with sleeping, right?
So SI is kind of like FI, but where it's
It's about your body instead of your
yourself.
emotion.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. Oh, I think I understand SI now.
I one time typed an ENTJ who told me that she had been playing volleyball and she realized that one of her feet was injured in the volleyball game because she noted that the opponents kept hitting it to one side of her. And that's how she figured out that she was hobbled a little bit. Not by feeling the pain of it or feeling it, but instead by noting some external cue that you're injured, which is just completely insane to an SI person.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I had run a hood to coast. If you've heard of hood to coast, you run from the mountain and then to the coast. And I ran on that when I had like a meniscus tear, a complete meniscus and ACL tear, because I went to the doctor and they said, "You're fine." I'm like, "Check, I'm fine." You tell me I'm fine, then I'm obviously fine. And then my husband ended up sending me to the doctor again, and he's like, "There's something wrong," because I asked him to pop my knee back in when I was sitting crisscross applesauce, and I had a habit of like knowing how to like put it back in, but sometimes it would get locked up because obviously there's no ACL or meniscus like doing its thing. So I asked him to pop it back in for me so we could continue playing the board game we were playing. And then he sent me to the doctor. So he's like, "You need to go." Okay, so ESTJ just...
That is SI polar in a nutshell.
Okay, cool.
And no ESTJ would ever make that mistake.
It wasn't a mistake. I was still doing things.
No, the mistake of thinking the doctor knows better about their own body than they do.
Well, they should.
No.
Well, they're the doctor. What are they doing here then?
Well, they lack all of those things called nerves in your own body that help you to feel and experience what your body is telling you.
Okay, if you went to school
just don't
for like
pay any attention to it.
Yeah, but like, you should be able to rely on them to say your knee is fucked up, sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get that you probably do need to rely. So anyway, that's SI polar for you. Yeah.
Okay. I think I have all my questions answered. Thank you so much. That was this has actually been a lot of fun.
I've enjoyed it too.
Cool.
So are you comfortable with me publishing this, or do you prefer I should be private?
Yeah, I'll have to explain to my friends that I do care about them. But yes.
Okay, I'll publish it. Thank you. So I'll do so sometime this evening. What's the process? It takes a little while to process. Then it sends me an email, then I publish it.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, great. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.